She did not announce a plan. She grew one. While headlines hunted for spectacle and the palace fought the weather of a difficult year, Catherine, Princess of Wales, laid out a map the way a gardener prepares a winter bed, in patience, in order, in the quiet where roots take hold. No slogans, no pleading for sympathy. Instead, a design built for endurance, early years reform that starts at the kitchen table, ritual stripped back to meaning, and a crown that breathes, because it belongs in the open air. The first clue was not a speech. It was a choice. During months of treatment, when cameras would have forgiven absence and the public would have accepted retreat, Catherine let precisely curated moments do the talking. A brief appearance with steady posture. A measured message about recovery that spoke of gratitude, not grievance. Then the line that revealed more than any medical bulletin, nature steadies her, and when life tightens, she walks. That sentence, delivered without sentimentality, was not autobiography. It was policy. It hinted at how she intends to govern influence, by returning the institution to the elements that do not lie, daylight, clean air, the habits of care learned in childhood and carried for life. Critics mistake quiet for weakness. They forget the most powerful reforms in our islands were not shouted into being. They were demonstrated until opposition had nothing left to push against. Catherine's method is that older English craft. She selects a field where victory will matter for a century, not a cycle, early childhood, and she refuses to wage the battle on the terrain of fashionable outrage. Instead she brings the science home, in calm language older hands trust. Listen to a child's feelings. Lend them your calm. Give them words before the world gives them wounds. 7 small films can feel like whispers in a loud arena. But anyone who has watched a nation change its habits, seatbelts, smoking, recycling, knows that 1,000 whispers can topple a shout. For those who remember different princesses and different storms, Catherine's dramaturgy feels familiar and new at once. The familiar part is restraint. She does not explain herself to win affection. She behaves consistently and lets affection follow. The new part is what she chooses to sanctify. Not a balcony. Not a ball. A bench in a schoolyard where a child can sit under a living tree. A playgroup in a parish hall where a tired mother hears that fatigue is not failure. A path rolled flat so a pram can reach the football pitch without jolting through potholes. This is not sentiment. It is logistics, the logistics of belonging. Her wedding foretold it, though few read it then. While the abbey held its breath, English trees lined the nave, and a country that had taught her to love the ordinary stood upright inside 1,000 years of ceremony. It looked pretty, it was defiant. Trees outlast headlines. They teach pace. They reconcile grandeur with ground. The lesson has matured with her. A future queen who plants before she names, who reduces ornament until only meaning remains, who allows children to be messy and adults to be honest. This is not a soft monarchy. It is a hardy one. The monarchy she imagines is not a stage set for flares and fanfare. It is an estate of well-tended places, where daily life can recover from its own noise. She understands what older Britons know in their bones. We judge institutions not by what they promise at noon, but by what they maintain at dusk. If she can leave behind a latticework of modest, repeatable changes, reading corners in surgeries, sensory paths in school gardens, trained caregivers who speak the same simple, scientific language, she will have achieved what loud eras rarely manage. The ordinary made noble by competence. This blueprint also answers a harder question the crown rarely faces head-on. What is royal power for when parliament and markets run the nation? It is for knitting. For joining the parts that belong together, but drift apart if left alone, parent and child, town and green space, science and common speech, pageantry and purpose. Catherine's answers are not complicated. They are exact. She is not trying to outshine modern celebrity, or compete with the instant gratification of our machines. She is trying to reteach stamina, of nerves, of families, of neighborhoods. There is a moral seriousness under her gentleness. It reveals itself in how she refuses to weaponize illness, and how she refuses to treat the public as an audience to be managed rather than as people to be helped. For a generation that remembers the toll of performance on earlier royal lives, this is not a small thing. It is the adult correction to the fairytale fever that once damaged almost everyone it touched. She offers a different pact. I will not ask you to stare. I will ask you to try. And I will go first. The partnership with the heir strengthens the argument. William pushes into housing, jobs, the hard edges of social need. Catherine builds the emotional infrastructure that prevents lives from buckling under those edges. Two halves of the same pledge. A child should not grow up homeless, and even if their circumstances are tight, they should grow up held. One without the other is charity or therapy. Together, they begin to look like duty. To the skeptical eye, all this can seem too simple. But simplicity is not naivety when it has been earned. Her simplicity has been tested by the same sharp weather that ages everyone, the long apprenticeship under a queen whose example will not be matched, the scrutiny that chases beauty as if it were permission to be cruel, the private cost of public joy. Older viewers recognize the difference between a fad and a principle. Principle looks plain at first and inevitable later. Will there be noise around her? Of course. There always is. Scandals take the stage loves them back. Catherine's choice is to treat the stage as a corridor, not a home. She will pass through when duty requires, do the necessary work of gratitude and remembrance, and then step back into the projects that change how mornings feel in real houses. That is how trust grows in people who have learned to ration it. A crown cannot be earned. It can be deserved, or not. Catherine's plan to deserve one is a discipline of small, unwavering acts that tell the same story in different rooms. A nursery teacher hears the princess speak about naming feelings. She tries it with 3-year-olds who used to bite. A GP practice hangs a simple chart of emotions while parents wait for vaccinations. Tantrums on the car park ease. A borough trial plants shade trees along a school route. Attendance rises in the hot weeks, because walking is bearable again. None of this will trend. All of it will endure. There is a line in our national character that responds to this kind of work. It is the line that mended bricks after blasts, that kept allotments in the hungry years, that keeps pews polished even when attendance thins. It is wary of grandeur and strangely in love with care. Catherine tends that line. She courts older hearts not with nostalgia, but with recognition. You built first, then spoke, you kept going, then celebrated. I will do the same. One imagines the day she becomes queen consort will reflect this grammar. Not more jewels. Fewer. The gesture that matters will not be the glitter on a cushion, but the living thing placed in public soil, a tree, a garden, a promise with leaves. There is precedent. But when she does it, it will not feel like imitation. It will feel like memory finally lodged where it belongs. Every blueprint needs a risk. Hers is obvious. Quiet can be misread as absence, restraint can be slandered as indifference. The answer cannot be a louder microphone. It must be more proofs, rooms with calmer children, parks that heal, neighbors who nod instead of passing blankly. Time is her ally if she keeps the pace. Time punishes those who shout and do not build. It rewards those who plant and return. So the map remains on the desk, the word circled 3 times. Root. The rest of the plan grows from that. Root in childhood, root in place, root in ritual that has shed its tinsel. If she keeps to it, the monarchy will feel less like a balcony and more like a network of tended commons. And when the noise returns, as it always does, the country will not be asked to defend a personality, it will be asked to protect something it uses every week. Perhaps the clearest picture is the simplest. Early morning, no motorcade, no fanfare. A small group of parents in a library moving chairs into a circle. A volunteer sets a kettle on a low table. A poster on the wall describes a child's feelings in plain words. The princess arrives without parade, takes a chair like everyone else, and listens before she speaks. When she does speak, it is to thank the room for doing what policy cannot do alone. She leaves, the circle continues. That is influence at its best, portable, replicable, stronger when shared. She does not intend to reinvent the crown. She intends to reroute it. A living thing, once rooted, withstands weather better than a statue polished to death. If you want to know what kind of queen she will be, do not watch the balcony. Watch the benches that fill beneath the trees she plants, and the children who learn under their shade how to feel, how to breathe, how to belong. That shade will outlast headlines. That, in the end, is the point.